And bad boys honestly give you a challenge. Like, as much as people want to say, oh, it's toxic and this and that, like, there's a certain level where, like, I feel like your partner should be able to challenge you. And I must admit, like, who doesn't love a good chase? Like, I think healthy chase is not so terrible. I don't think you should give everything all at once. That's what makes the relationship boring, when you dump everything all at the beginning. But I also have to admit, it's ego.
So we've all heard TikToks like these.
I did a video on why good guys are boring. I think it's only fair I do a video on why girls love bad boys. It's the charm. Bad boys are very charming, extremely charming, and they know women inside and out. Like, it's always the bad guys that be knowing exactly how to talk to you.
Okay, so we've heard these kind of TikToks time and time before, and this is really nothing new. You'll hear the words like exciting and unpredictable and things like that. You know, those are kind of the words you always hear with the bad boys. And funnily enough, I was listening to Cynthia G's video yesterday. She's talking about what's her name, Lori Harvey, and how she's dating, and basically how she's taking her destiny into her own hands, and how, you know, more women need to date like her. And of course, you know, as you know, men looking at it logically, we can see the fallacy in the argument. I mean, a young woman in her mid-20s, you know, at the peak of her physical, you know, whatever, she's going to have all the leverage. But we also understand that's not going to last forever. But, you know, Cynthia G's point was basically, you know, you ladies need to take control and date like Lori Harvey. And again, we can see the fault in that. But one thing that it led me to think about, instead of getting emotional or kind of getting triggered by it, was that modern women are dealing with the new set of circumstances. So I want to introduce the two of them. I'm going to flesh them out, and then I want to get to my main point. So the first point is, we're living in an age where average women just simply don't need average men. They don't need average guys. So we're getting closer and closer to salary parity, where the average woman just simply doesn't have any perceived need for the average man. And the second thing, of course, is that you're seeing the social guardrails break down. So let me put this ahead so you can see it. Like, social guardrails on behavior have broken down. And I'm going to get into that in the second part of this video here. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that average women don't need average men anymore. And so the best way to show you this is, I want to show you numbers from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. And this is a chart charting the comparison of women's to men earning by race. And so you see that red line is black, right? And so you're seeing it, average salary worker, or average salaried workers working full time. In 2021, the average black woman made almost 94% of what the average black man made. Now we can parse the numbers and talk about, you know, how many guys are in jail and all of that, but just looking at raw numbers, so you can see from 2000 is 84% women to men's earning ratio. You see it slowly creep up. You know, you look at middle, we're looking at the middle one right here. You see it clips up into, it cuts over 90 in 2009, and then, you know, it's in the 90s and it's in 94%. So what that basically is saying is that average women and average men are getting very, very close in terms of salary earnings. Now we can talk about trades and who's making what and how stable the income is, but that's what we will look at it as, you know, men. But I'm talking about perceived earnings. So if you're making, you know, 55, 60, 60,000, 65,000, regardless of what your trade is as a woman, your perceived earning capacity, even if you're not seeing where your career is going to be in 5 to 10 years or 3 to 5 years, you don't necessarily see it that way. What you're seeing is that you're earning as much money or more money than a lot of your male counterparts. And so that you have a situation where you're having guys that are trying to impose rules or conditions on how they want to be with a woman. And for, you know, a lot of young women, they're looking at their earnings compared to the men that they're dating, and they're just saying, why should I settle, or why should I deal with these kind of conditions if I'm making this amount of money, which of course points a lot to Cynthia G's audience and why they also feel like they can be in a position to date like Lori Harvey. So the second issue is that we're seeing a breakdown in the social guardrails that have governed behavior. So if you look at, this is a Pew study here, and it says roughly 1/3 of evangelical Protestants say casual sex between consenting adults is always or sometimes acceptable. And as you know, this is interesting as it shows, but look at that number, Protestant, historically black. And so you say net, always, sometimes, acceptable for consenting adults to have casual sex, casual. And 18 plus 38, that would be 50%, as in the overwhelming majority of church goers. Now you got to leave out the people who who don't consider themselves, Christian or whatever, or identifying that way. But you're talking about historically black Protestant and overwhelmingly saying that casual sex is acceptable. Now that is a major change from what we would have seen 30 to 40 years ago. And so when you add these two conflating things together, it's going to have a very strong effect on behavior. Now you're having average women who don't need average men perceivedly, because of course we understand that it makes sense. If you're at average income, you get paired with another average income, you guys can be socially, economically, you could be very settled in a very short amount of time if you work together. But that's, again, perceived income. And the second, of course, if you don't have any guardrails, then it leads to a special set of conditions, which I think is what's basically led to a group of women that basically are, seeing Cynthia G's message and identifying with it, and is leading to a generation of women that are seeing Lori Harvey as empowering, and B, you're getting a group of passport bros who are just saying, hey, I don't fit in this dating dynamic, so I just got to go somewhere else. Okay, so that leads me to define what a dusty is. So the way I see a dusty is that a dusty is a man who does not have either A, the physical looks, or B, the life-changing finances to bring excitement to a woman's life. So when I listen to, people like Cynthia G and the like, and they talk about dusties, technically what I see a dusty as is a man who basically wants to put standards on his wife or his, significant other, or in his relationship, but either A, he doesn't have the looks that are going to make, the friends go, oh my gosh, how did you get him? And it's going to, transform her social life in that way, or B, the money that's going to translate her life in a way that's going to be so exciting that, her friends are going to, again, get jealous. So dusties are the guys who can't fulfill either of those. So if you're a regular guy and you got your money together, but you're not exceedingly good looking, or you're not going to exceedingly change her financial lifestyle, you fit into the dusty category. And so basically, how dare you have an opinion on certain issues if you're not, good enough to fill one of these two categories? Which leads me to my graph. I think it's here, right? Yeah. So I'll get back to the two guardrails in a second, but if you look at the x-axis, the x-axis is basically talking about economic stability. And I think as economic stability grows for women, they're more likely to seek more desire, more excitement, right? And so that excitement can be in terms of wanting to spend money and go on trips, or it could be in terms of looking for a kind of man that's going to, thrill them physically, right? And as you move down the stability ladder, there's more focus for seeking stability. So let me see if I can rephrase it. So if you go to developing countries, young ladies in developing countries, they don't have the economic stability to have sexual relations just for a good time. They're not in a position where they can just use their sexuality as a game. It is because stability is such the coveted property that there is no desire for excitement through sexual escapades. You have to secure a level of stability first, and then once you get that level of stability, then you can go seek out, excitement. But in the West, and especially in our category for black, for in black relations, we're seeing an elevated level of stability economically, which is leading lots and lots of young women, if you will, to say, you know what, I have enough money to pay my rent and I can go on a trip every so often, and I have a decent car. So I don't need another average guy so I can have more stability. So if you look somewhere around the middle of this chart, this would probably be somewhere where the average woman is, somewhere in this area here, right? And so if you're looking at the average women in the area here, they're seeking out more excitement. So I don't need to settle for the average guy. I want to go for the guy that's going to economically change my life or excitement wise, physically change my life. And if I can't get that guy, then I'm fine just dating until I can get that guy. And so you'll probably be seeing me play around with this chart, but the point of the chart is, as you move towards the economic stability side, and you live in a group of in a society where there are no guardrails socially, then you're just going to get more and more women, especially in the black community, just basically saying, I can be Lori Harvey, except I lived a Lori Harvey life at 45 because I have enough quote unquote perceived stability. And perceived stability, again, if you're making 55 to 60,000 and you're making house payments and you have a car and you feel a level of stability, then why would you not try and go and hit the home run even in your 40s? And that's what we're seeing more of. And I think that's why we're seeing an elevated group of people kind of focusing on women like Cynthia G, is because they're looking at guys that are basically their economic equals and saying, why are you going to try and put any kind of constraints on us? And what a lot of passport bros are saying is, okay, well, if I can't do that, then I'll go somewhere where I can do it, where someone needs more stability from me. And that's where I see young women needing to cheat. It's because the cheating is not necessarily about they're not finding a partner. The cheating is about the excitement, because they can afford the excitement sexually. They can afford the escapades. They can afford the trips and the Stella got the groove back, ordeals. And that is the substitute for whatever the stability was before the guardrails broke down. And women were basically on par and earning average in the black community, and the church didn't turn his nose up at free sex. And so in a way, stability to someone who has stability is not attractive. What people with stability, young women with stability and no social guardrails want is excitement. And where's the excitement? It's in cheating. And it's in hypergamy. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care, guys.